see it on my page. You might have to refresh.
Hmm.
Okay, I think we're live, and I am so excited to be here with the amazing, the lovely, the fancy pants, Christine Goerke.
Fancy
Uh,
pants.
Fancy pants, of course. This is good. This is
I
good.
could not be less fancy pants, but I'm here for it.
Is it a bit cold where you are outside?
Do you know, this is the weird thing about what sort of is going on with our weather. Growing up, I mean, it's no secret. I don't try to pretend I'm young. But I'm a child of the 70s. And, in the 70s, when I grew up on Long Island, and I remember blizzards and tunneling underneath things and building huge snow forts. And then all of a sudden, there was no snow ever in the Northeast. And so now we ended up with like 20 inches of snow,
Wow.
like the week before last or something. And I am enjoying it beyond belief. But I am here to tell you that my hair and some static things are going on. And so you get the poof today. You're welcome.
Love the poof. I love the poof. I've got the quaff. You've got the
You
poof. I've
do
got the
quaff
quaff.
and poof. That's what we have to do. Quaff and poof.
So, talk with us a little bit about how did you get interested and involved in music to start with? I mean, was it church choir or high school choir or junior high? How did that all start to happen?
The funny thing is, I didn't really sing at all when I was a kid.
Oh wow.
I came home in third grade. And third grade is when they start offering instruments, and it was orchestral instruments. And here come all the jokes. I was the only kid in my school that wanted to play the viola.
Okay.
We could stop right there, I feel like, but here we are. But my dad was so determined that I wasn't going to stick with it. He never got me an instrument. So I
Huh.
went in and I learned how to shake my hand, and that's how you hold the instrument. And I did that for like a month, and they said, if you're not actually going to get an instrument, you're going to have to leave. And I was sad, and then I left. But the next year, they offered band instruments. So I came running back home to my dad. I said, I want to play the flute. And he said, great, here's a clarinet. I like Artie Shaw. And I was like, who? So that didn't go well, but I stuck with it, and I still play. And I started as a music education major with a minor in clarinet
Oh
at
wow.
SUNY Fredonia.
Okay.
And my intent was to be a band teacher. I didn't really sing at all.
So
I
going through high school, you played clarinet?
Clarinet, flute, sax, bari sax, bass clarinet. Did not get me any dates at 6 feet tall, by the way. Um, Also captain of the color guard. So I mean, I was like, trifecta of don't date me, because
you,
I just was like, it didn't happen. But that's okay. I loved it. I taught myself how to play a ton of woodwinds, and I thought,
yeah.
what, this is actually really cool. And the reason I wanted to be a band teacher, my high school band director, he was only about 7 or 8 years older than us. He had just, this is his first teaching gig.
Right.
So funny, so brilliant. 11th grade in a public school on Long Island, he had 35 kids in a music theory 1 class.
Wow.
And 5 of us idiots went on to theory 2 in 12th grade. By the
Wow.
time I left, I could take oral dictation of a Bach chorale. And we wrote a string quartet. So I was ready to do this. I was like, this guy's so cool. He has so many people loving this. I want to go into music. I want to do what he does.
That's amazing. I mean, isn't that the way that it usually works out? I mean, it's so important that we have those relationships with our, whatever age we start, junior high, high school. It can really kind of make or break the inspiration that continues to go forth in the next stages. So you said you went to SUNY Fredonia to bachelor music education.
Yeah, that's what was my plan. Short lived. People make plan, God laughs. And so I went in, and you know what happens when we all go in? The very first thing, no matter what you do and what your major is, they're like, great, here, let's go take some sight singing tests because we have to place you.
Right.
Okay. Well, they were more impressed with my voice than they were with my clarinet playing, which was
From your
really
sight
rough
singing.
from my sight singing, because they're like, you have to audition for the upper division choirs. I was like, no, I
And
don't.
literally up until this point, you had not had a voice lesson. You had not been in a
Never.
choir. You had just been singing along with the radio.
Just singing along with the radio. And there was one
Wow.
time I tried to join the choir in high school to sing the Hallelujah chorus, and then I was told to go back to the band. Wah, wah, wah. So
Thank you. Next.
thank you so much. And yes,
Mhm.
I sure did revisit everyone after that. But I auditioned for these choirs, and I got in, and I thought, well, okay, you know what? Maybe I should be a choral teacher instead. Didn't play
Hmm.
piano. That didn't occur to me. Apparently, I just thought
Right.
I could teach myself. And I decided it would be a better idea if I went home because this was a really big change. And I started studying and I started taking lessons and singing in choirs. And I kind of fell in love with it. And it turned out that people started to hear me and said, this is not a choir voice. You should be really studying.
Hmm.
And so I ended up at Stony Brook, and
Okay.
I started to study with Elaine Bonazzi.
Okay.
And she was one of the people that would just eat scenery, eat it, spit it out, chew it
Right.
up, stomp
Right.
on it. And lyric coloratura mezzo. And she kept me super duper safe. And I started with her and I sang lots of Mozart and I sang lots of Handel. And already at 24, people were bandying about the dramatic word. And she said, well, that's fascinating, but I don't have a crystal ball. And right now you're a lyric coloratura. So let's go. I said,
Right.
fine.
Right. So was this a shift in, like, did you end up transferring from uh, Fredonia to Stony Brook during your undergraduate education?
I did. And so when I came home at first, it was more of an issue of trying to wander in the door and explain to my father that I had never sung.
You weren't
And
going to be the clarinet performer
no,
that
I
you
am
wanted.
not Artie Shaw, as it turns out. He was already mad about that. I was playing Mozart instead of Artie Shaw. He had no idea what to do with me.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I had to tell him, look, I think I'm going to sing opera. And he said, the what? I said, okay, I know this is crazy. He said, all right, we need a plan though. And I said, right. If I am not supporting myself within 5 years of graduating, I promise you I will go back and finish my education degree.
Wow. That's
Whatever
actually a
that
really
means.
great plan.
I mean, again, we make plans. I had
Sure,
plans for
but
the last 18 months. They were amazing. I mean, whatever. We all have plans.
my 2021 was going to be fantastic
The
until,
best,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I did. I said, I just know that I'm taking this seriously. And I don't mean making $1 billion. I mean paying my bills.
Right, right,
And
right.
so he said, okay, I will support this. I'm terrified, but I'll support this. And he was supportive of me. And I'm a parent now. As parents, we think about putting ourselves in that situation. Our kid comes home and says, yeah, I'm going to be a rock star. So, but don't worry if
Um,
it doesn't work out in 5 years.
okay, so here's a little indulgence. So I have this nice big desk and I've got a nice big cinema display, and my daughter finds it to be very, very, like, she gets rewarded if she gets to come in here and play her Roblox on my computer. So she
Friend.
has, which is great. So she has these little I have to make sure she's not listening. She has these little sticky notes. And I saw this, what I want to be when I grow up, sticky notes.
Oh,
Number one,
yes.
vet. Number
Yes.
two, zookeeper. Number
Fine.
three, pop singer.
At least yours don't say that they want to be like, an influencer. And I'm like, yeah, me too, kids. Tell me about it. Let me know when that happens, because then you
Yeah,
can support me the rest of my life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
No, I,
fine.
I, I hear you. I hear you.
And I
So,
end up, and I'm worse. I have to play Roblox with mine, and
oh,
I am
hey,
horrible at it. So
she has numerous times be like, I've set up another account so you can play with me, so you can be in the game with me. I'm like, okay, okay, okay. Oh, hey, we've got some. Tony Griffey says that he's a trombone player, and
oh yes, he's also a fantastic dancer.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would
I
not
mean, no
doubt it.
lies at all.
Joe McKesson played the string bass. Alan Savata, the travel agent to the stars, says, hey, we got a band.
I know we're ready to
Good.
go. Let's take it out on the roads. We got to do something this year.
Exactly, right? We got to figure out how to make this work. So you made the decision to switch over to opera, and then you transferred to Stony Brook, started working with a teacher. What were some of the initial surprises to you in learning? I mean, this is your first formal lessons in voice, right?
I had
So,
studied very briefly with someone as I was starting to transition into Stony Brook, but yeah, this was really the first time I was studying, and I had no idea what to expect. The funny thing is I actually sang in a choir, and it was a pay to sing,
mm,
and I ended up going over to Austria, and it was a Handel festival, excuse me, a Haydn festival in Eisenstadt,
okay,
and where he was at the court. And we did a Handel, excuse me, a Haydn mass, but we also did the Mozart mass in C minor, and I was fascinated. I mean, Mozart Clarinet Concerto was my jam, and I learned all the Mozart clarinet stuff. And
Right.
so, a Mozart mass, this is cool. So, of
Right.
course, I sang in the chorus, and the minute I came home, I could not wait to start singing all the soprano solos. You can imagine how confused they were when I walked in. It wasn't a big undergraduate vocal school at Stony Brook. It was a
Okay.
really great grad program.
Okay.
But I wandered in and I was standing there waiting to audition with a couple of other undergrads, and
And was this like your junior year?
it was no, like I came in as a sophomore because
Sophomore.
I
Okay.
literally was only at Fredonia for one semester before I was
Oh,
like,
okay. Okay.
nope, no idea. Um, clueless. And
Yeah.
I was standing in the hallway, I remember, and there was a gentleman who was going to go in before me, and he looked so nervous. And I said, hi. I introduced myself. I said, what are you going to sing? And he said, West Side Story. And I went, cool. And he goes, what are you going to sing? And I said, well, I brought both the soprano one and the soprano two solos from the Mozart Mass in C minor. And he went, oh.
Hmm.
So already I walked in and they said, what do you have? And you can imagine how confusing it would be for either one of us if somebody walked in and said, right, I have the Et Incarnatus Est and I have Laudamus Te. Which would you
Right.
like to hear? And they're like,
Right.
what
We'd be
the
like,
hell are you?
huh. I want to hear them both.
They asked to hear the Et Incarnatus Est. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And I sang that for them and I got in. 2 seconds later, the Babylon Chorale on Long Island were
Hmm.
doing the Mozart Mass in C minor with orchestra, and I was 19. I should have sent you the clip. I have a recording of it. It was my
Oh my
first
God.
orchestra gig, and I sang the second soprano solos. And
Wow.
that was it. I was hooked. And the thing that I was really surprised by, I thought, coming off of being a wind player,
Yeah.
I use my breath anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
breathing's breathing.
Is it?
Oh,
Is it though?
no, it's just not really. It's not. Pro tip, it's not.
Yeah. Hashtag pro tip. Breathing is
Hashtag pro
not just
tip,
breathing.
not the same thing. But you know what? The thing is, it did serve me fine for a while until my voice started getting bigger.
Hmm.
And then it didn't. Because I didn't quite know how to get underneath something that required more support.
Well, how would you explain the differences between using your breath for singing and using your breath to play clarinet?
A lot of singers like to use a straw. Do you ever use the straw thing?
Absolutely.
Oh
Sure.
my God, I died so the straw in my bag at all times. And now it's reusable because environment. Hashtag do good.
I was just gonna
So,
grab. I've got my purple one right here.
so oh my
I
gosh, you're
lit.
better than me. I use a boba straw. I'll pass out if I try that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I need the big thick ones or I'll just fall over. Mine's over here someplace. Where the hell's mine?
Well,
Anyway.
perhaps that very quickly summarizes the difference in size between
Well,
yours
there
and
you
mine.
go. Have a good day. Okay. Thank you for joining us. But no, this is the game, right? So if you think about a blade of grass, right? When we were kids, we all took the blade of grass and stuck it between our thumbs. And
Sure.
if you blow too hard, not you don't make a noise and you blow the blade of grass right away. So
Sure.
everything is about being able to use the sound use the air in a way that is going to create the best focus and use the air the most efficiently, right?
Oh,
And
sure. And I would imagine that that's on both. I mean, I've never played clarinet myself, but I would imagine that on. I certainly know that that's true for singing, but I would imagine it's for any reed instrument as well. You want to make sure that you're efficient with your breath.
100%. But there's no variation. So you are using the same amount of your embouchure has to stay tight. It has to stay in the same place. It is always going through a mouthpiece that's this long and this wide. The space between the reed is here. It is a very singular thing.
Hmm.
When we are doing what we do, vowels change, dynamics change, all kinds of, we have a million different variables.
Right.
And so we not only have to be able to understand how to use the air efficiently, but we have to be able to understand when to use more and when to use less.
Absolutely.
And so that is something that I simply did not understand at all. And I also didn't understand quite how much I needed to root myself into the floor for my support.
Mm.
And then I learned the word appoggio.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, everything started to fall apart. my voice started to grow, which I didn't actually understand what was happening. I was 32 or 33, and I was singing the title role of Alcina at New York City Opera, and it was the
Hmm.
opening of the season. This should have been a walk in the park for me. You know what happens when somebody tells you you're going to sing this role eventually. What is the
Right.
first thing you do as a young singer?
You're like, ooh, let me take a look at it.
Of course, she's like, okay, Aida, let's go. And I wandered in. I was like, I'm singing the High Priestess, so clearly I'm going to sing Aida.
Right.
Said nobody ever,
Right.
but I did apparently. Um,
Uh-huh.
in fact, I sang the High Priestess with Tony Griffey singing the Messenger.
Look out.
He looked really good in a skirt. Sorry, Tony, I
Luxury
totally just ratted
casting.
you out. But
Oh,
anyway, oh,
by the
did
way,
he?
Renita Miller says, "Hey y'all," and Randy Scarlotta says, "Hi friends, recovering violist here myself."
I'm just jealous. It was almost my pandemic, hobby. I
Yeah.
thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn how to play it finally. And then I thought, I'm not even going to learn one more clef. No, I'm 52. I have earned only a couple of clefs, and that one's not happening.
Right.
So, yeah, so this
So
was the.
let me pause for a second. I think that what you're talking about, like in your early 30s, when you were singing Alcina at the New York City Opera, and you had, I mean, there was a, am I mistaken? There's a CD of you singing early Bach kind of Handel, Mozart kind of things. Like I remember when I knew of who you were, I thought, oh wow, that's great. She specializes in the early stuff, and then I know we're going to get to it, but of course you've left most of that repertoire behind and are focusing on different things. But um, continue on with what you're saying. The Alcina.
Right. Well, this was the thing. Like everyone wants to tell you what you're going to be. Like everyone has a magic, the magic 8 ball. Shake it up. What will I be?
Right.
No,
Right.
you know. But at this moment, people had already brought up the whole dramatic soprano thing. So I read what I could find, and basically what I saw was sort of in your late 30s, early 40s. It's a big shift. You change, your technique. You change your repertoire. You ease into something different. Okay, well
Hmm.
that sounded fine.
Right.
Well, it started to happen when I was 32,
Oh wow.
and I couldn't have imagined that's what was happening. I figured I broke it, which is the
You
most
thought you broke your voice.
I figured I must have. I mean, that's the most stupid thing anyone could say, but I was working really hard. I was doing everything that I always did, but I could not suddenly control it. It felt as though it was wild. It
Uh,
felt as though everything was tight. I felt like I didn't have a lot of air, which to be perfectly honest, I have 3 lungs. I can go for an hour, but suddenly it wasn't working. And I
hmm.
truly had no idea what was wrong, and I thought, you know what? I never expected to have a career like this at all, and I don't want to walk away from this embarrassed, and maybe it's just time to stop.
Hmm.
Um, and my then fiance, now husband, basically said that, if you want to stop this, that's totally fine. I will stand by you, but I know you will miss it, and I think people will miss you, and I think this is a mistake, but it's up to you.
Hmm.
Well, not having any of that nonsense. Of course, I'm just going to quit. Of course, it totally worked. And then I just got angry and thought, I've got to switch teachers. I have to find something else. I don't think it's anyone's fault. I think something's just different. And I'm not
Hmm.
upset with anybody. I just need to try something new.
And do you think that was primarily grounded like in what you felt with your breath, or what you felt with like your range, or what you felt like what different technical aspects of your singing had started to change so much that led you to be like, okay, screw this, I'm out, you know?
Well, I mean, honestly, first of all, the tuning started just in not into one specific area. It would either be rock solid or not,
Hmm.
and that was never an issue. And I wasn't making the ends of phrases. That was never an
Hmm.
issue.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
suddenly everything just felt tight. And I really chalked that up to my nerves at that point because I felt like it wasn't behaving the way it should.
Hmm.
But it wasn't that. I shopped around a little bit and ended up with Diana Soviero. And
Oh
I
yeah.
remember walking in, the lady shoots right from the hip, and I love it. That's the other
Couldn't
thing.
have it
It's
any
not
other way.
right. But you and I are that way.
Sure.
I would so encourage if singers are hunting for a teacher, it's not just about the right information. It's about how the information is given to you. Are you the kind of singer that needs this? If you are, that is totally cool. This is hard. Or are
Right.
you the kind of singer that needs, what the hell are you doing? Stop that. Oh,
Right.
okay, I'll stop that. Fine. Thank you.
Well, oftentimes they don't know what they're doing, right? I mean, we don't possess the ability. I feel like a broken record. I'm saying this to my students all the time. Where your ears are on your head, you don't possess the ability to listen to what you're doing. So
So
don't sit there and say
inconvenient.
like, well, that sounded weird to I don't care what it sounded like to you.
That's
I
the
want to
same
know
thing
how
we.
it felt,
That's
right? I
right.
want and
That's the
so
game.
from the other side of the table, if I'm watching someone doing something that's like, why are you quit doing that? Oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Because oftentimes it's something that they are completely unaware of, you know?
Which is exactly what was happening with me. And it's funny you talk about the ear thing. That's what I tell people. I say, God has inconveniently put our ears behind our faces.
Right.
So whatever is coming out of your face is taking time to get back around. Plus, you're hearing things on the inside. Please, if it sounds good in your head, I'm not getting it. So, I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
so anyway, that is exactly what was happening. I had no idea. I couldn't reconcile the sounds in my head and what was happening in my body. And I remember going into Diana for the first lesson and I couldn't get through 3 pages of Zueignung. I was such a wreck. I was so nervous. I was so upset. And I said to her, she goes, I don't know why the hell you've disconnected from your breath, but that's got to stop right now. And I said, I
Mm.
did not. And she goes, you most certainly have.
You're like, I'm not disconnected from my
It's
breath.
like,
Like,
no,
oh,
you're
really?
not.
You're like, really?
She's like,
You want me to play the record back or the tape back and show you what it sounds
exactly.
like?
And I
Yeah.
said, but I'm not. So it turns out, and again, hashtag pro tip, this doesn't work. My voice had started to grow so much that, and look, in a way this kind of makes sense, but I'm here to tell you it didn't work. I little by little started to come off of my support in an attempt to keep everything slim so
Uh-huh.
that the coloratura would feel the same way.
Right. That doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I mean, I didn't have such a difference in repertoire, but I mean, I started off singing a lot of Handel, a lot of Mozart, and then of course I spend most of my time with Verdi and Puccini now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way that if I would occasionally get a Messiah after I started singing into all this bigger stuff, I'd find the temptation would be the same thing, is to come off of it just to make it feel like it's like, I've got this, I've got the,
Right, but what's the first thing you do? The thing that you just did, I heard you do it right
right.
here. And
This
that's
tends to,
exactly what I did. And
right,
I was singing from here.
right.
And when you sing from here and you're not supporting and you're not connected to the floor, as I always think about connecting right down to the floor through my feet,
Yeah.
then I am exhausting myself here. I am using too much muscle. And magically, all of a sudden, I can't control my breath. I cannot control my pitch. And I cannot control the focus of my voice. Trifecta
Exactly.
of goodness. So
The
that's what happened.
trifecta.
The trifecta of goodness. We don't
It's
want
like,
that.
what'd you say? The head of the color guard, the band, and
And the Barry Sacks.
this is the
Boom. This is both of those things. Don't do those. I'm here to tell you all the stuff that you shouldn't do, kids. You're welcome. And so that was the game. And
yeah.
she literally just said, listen, I'm serious. This is a tiny thing. I know how huge this feels to you. And I know how scary this is because this was like a big public thing that happened, but it's not a big thing.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I have a new production of Don Giovanni in 3 months at the Met. And so if you can't fix this, I'm just going to quit. And she said, great, no pressure. Come back tomorrow.
Hmm. And so how did she get you back on your breath? How did she get you back on your support?
I was introduced to the great appoggio, which I didn't understand at all. I didn't understand how low. Now, of course, we all talk about this. Singers, we love to use the words and all of the synonyms and all of the colors and pictures, and because you can't say, please don't move your left cord 3 centimeters to the right. Go.
Right,
So
right.
we're like, it comes up with colors and ideas about point and space. But basically, I was not accounting for how low I have to be able to support and how low I have to feel it. Obviously, when people say take a low breath, well, how the hell do we do that? Our lungs are in our rib cage. We can't take a low breath.
I
But
spent the first 10 years of my professional career thinking I was taking a low breath and really only breathing to about mid chest. It's great to hear you say that because I experienced almost the identical thing. And for our non-Italian speaking friends, appoggio comes from the
Sorry.
infinitive appoggiare, which means to lean down on something. Well,
Mm,
what we're talking about is leaning down on the breath that we take or on the body. I mean, yes, when we inhale, the air fills our lungs. But
mhm.
I think if you do it right, it can feel like you drink the air in all the way down to as low as you can imagine, right?
Well, and there it is, the low as you can imagine part. I always laugh because, well, there's no delicate way to say this, kids, so here we go. I always laugh because if I don't take a low enough breath, I don't feel like I need the ladies. There
Hmm.
it is. And if I do, either I need the ladies, I'm going to be 52, chances are good I need the ladies, but
Hmm.
also I am connected to the floor.
Yeah.
And my sneaky way to remind myself, if I feel like I am not connected, when we started working, we had a yoga ball. And I put the yoga ball between me and the wall. And the thing is, it would allow you to lean and to really feel what your muscles are doing. And it's tiny movements, actually.
Right.
It's just tiny controlled movements.
Right.
And because there was resistance, some people, um, there was a tenor that I worked with when I was young, whose name I will not mention, but he definitely liked to wear some form of a girdle. And it
Ah,
was mostly because it was something. It's like why I like to sing in a corset. Girls are either tighter, tighter, or looser, looser with corsets. I'm straight up, like O'Hara here. Make it tighter so that I can push up against it because I'm lazy. Okay, good
sure.
talk.
Sure.
Um, but
I
this
mean,
is
I prefer same thing with men. When I have a belt around my waist, that's a completely different sensation if I'm just wearing shorts or whatever, not
right.
having any kind of resistance to that.
But isn't it amazing? Because that tiny bit of resistance, it simply reminds you to engage.
Right, right.
And to me, my little sneaky thing, and I've now told everybody this game. So when I'm practicing, if I just bend my knees slightly, there is no way you can avoid finding how low you need to be connected when you take that breath
Yeah,
and you engage those muscles to support correctly.
yeah, I agree.
You can't really just sort of walk around in a squat on stage unless you're doing fantula, in which case maybe you can. However,
That'll work.
sneaky trick. I love me some fourth position for those of you who took dance. I love
Hmm.
it because if you lean into the front leg, this is wide open. And you can't, if you take a breath into something that's wide open, it just reminds you to fill every space. So I love leaning into the front leg. And if I need to remind myself to stay connected to my support, if you're over your back leg and you just bend the back leg slightly, nobody notices. But you can remind yourself to make sure you are connected to the floor.
Agreed. Agreed.
So,
So obviously, that worked, and you figured that out, and you found some consistency with that, which is great.
mm.
What did you find was sort of? I mean, was there another element to that, or was it like once you figured out the low breath and the resistance to that, everything else kind of came into line?
Well, everything kind of did come into line, but my voice continued to grow. It was funny. We found this, and I was having lessons in an apartment, and it got to a point where I said, "Yeah, we can't do this here anymore. People are going to throw me out of the building." So then we had to start go renting places. She's like, "Oh God, there's even more in there. Let's go to a bigger room." But little by little, as I did this, I started to understand how more and more was coming out. And the game is, you cannot make your voice something that it is not. I could not stay in Mozart and Handel. I stayed too long. I
Mm,
didn't know. I thought that, don't we do this? I thought that if I stayed in a lighter repertoire, I would keep myself safe.
right, right.
Look, some people, that's where they should be. And oh my gosh, how lucky are y'all? Because I miss Mozart and Handel more than you can possibly know.
Mm.
I'm getting to work on recits and things with folks right now, and I'm like, oh God. I was Susanna yesterday. That was super fun.
I know
Um,
I'm teaching a opera scenes class at UMKC this semester where we're focusing on the De Ponte Mozart operas. And so we're talking about all these characters. I'm like, I haven't sung this stuff in like 15 years. This is so great. I love it.
it's amazing. And you know what?
I
Getting
know.
to make a steady diet of that is incredible.
It really is.
But I will say that the things that I learned and Mozart, everyone said, well, everyone should be able to sing Mozart. Mozart's not for everybody. Okay, come at me, but it's not something that everyone and their mother will find a home in.
The other thing that I completely disagree with is like, oh, Mozart's great for young singers. Is it?
Okay,
Sometimes. Sometimes
sometimes.
yes, sometimes no. I
But
mean,
maybe not to perform. But I will tell you that I still warm up for Electra. I warm up with Constanza. I've never sung it, but I warm
right,
up with it. I warm up
right.
with Cleopatra. We can learn something always from Mozart and Handel and Beethoven. Oh my God, that dude wrote for a bunch of clarinets and certainly not for voices. But I'm going to forgive him because it's beautiful.
Sure,
But
sure.
we can always learn something from any repertoire, any composer.
I agree.
Does it mean it's what we personally do best? No, none of us are jack of all trades.
Right.
We have things that are what God built our instruments for. And so finding those, look, it takes time. And we have to try everything on. And then to add to all of that nonsense, every year our body gets older, our voice changes, those rubber bands get older every day.
Yeah.
So we're waking up with a different instrument than we went to sleep with every
Hmm.
day.
Hmm. Good
So
point.
do you find that it's just an issue of, I like to call it like the bag of tricks? Like I know which things I need to do to adjust what,
Right.
but we need somebody in front of us to tell us what those things are.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when you're talking about, elements or ingredients to a vocal technique, I oftentimes make the analogy of a recipe. There's
Mm-hmm.
ingredients to a recipe, and whatever we're singing, we want to make sure that the recipe that we're using has the right balance of things so that yes, we get the right chiaroscuro balance of tone, and yes, we find the most efficient use of breath, and yes, we want to make sure that the resistance to that breath is
Mm-hmm.
closure in the chords, that it doesn't get too tight or it doesn't get too loose.
Right.
And so yeah, with any one of those things, and it goes on and on, we do have to make sure that we're finding efficiency. I keep coming back to that word, but we
That's
have to
right.
continue to find efficiency within each one of those ingredients. And so there are a bag of tricks probably for each one of those. I mean, every teacher has their own sort of way of bringing out something in someone with it, under any one of those sort of umbrella or file folders or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we have to, at the end of the day, find what it is that we feel is innately us, right? So that we're staying true to ourselves. And I've physically, I've gone up and down size wise, and I know that when I'm heavier, there's something about the weight around my midsection that almost without thinking about it, I take a breath out, I drop low, I find the expansion in the lower torso, and then because of gravity, the extra weight sort of helps with that breath. I don't even have to think about it. When I've lost weight and I sort of don't have that around the midsection, it's something I start to feel more physically in my lower torso, and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes like a, oh, wait a minute, what's that? What's that going? So there's all kinds of things that singers are faced with depending on their shape, size, changes. And I mean, no one probably knows it better than someone like yourself. When a woman goes, not to suggest that you are going through menopause or that you have gone through
I'm
menopause,
sure
but
I don't know what you're talking about, 52. It's fine. No, I have no, you know what? Not quite yet, but I am super looking forward to it.
I've heard
But
from some of my female colleagues that when they
yeah,
when they start to experience that, and some of them are experiencing it younger and younger, and so it's just,
absolutely.
it's sort of one of those things that I'm like, wow, there's so many different facets that
Right.
are thrown at us. Not to mention our emotional state, our mental state, how we deal with whatever the world is currently throwing at us.
Yeah. Well, but there's
Which is,
also one other bit of this, and I mean, you haven't been through this. At least I don't. If you have, you should totally hit up one of the, talk shows. So if you happen to find yourself pregnant in singing,
no, I've never been pregnant myself.
well, you know what? I wouldn't tell. It's okay. So you just write that book and you make that money. It's fine. So the game of that, you're talking about having, extra midweight, I laugh because people say, "What's it like to sing pregnant?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, it's the best. You thank those kids because you don't have to do anything. They do all the work for you." Like I was like, my kid was kicking me and I was like, a little lower, diaphragm to the right. Okay, let's go.
Oh, it's great.
um,
I remember, Camille Zamora,
yeah.
yeah, Sing for Hope, an incredible artist, amazing colleague. She and I were at the Juilliard Opera Center together, and we were doing a production of Handel's Oreste, and she was about ready to go, like ready to
19
give birth.
months pregnant.
Yes, yes, yes. And I remember being on stage with her, and she would look at me like you could just see when the baby would kick, and she would like I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? Are we, But yeah, I can only imagine what that must have what feel like and be to perform while you're pregnant. That's incredible.
It's
Did you
cool.
did you continue your stage work while you were pregnant, like up until as long as you could?
I I did my first tour and 5 months pregnant, which was hysterical because I had to move sideways. I had to just because nobody wants to see like, sup. Don't mind me. I'm just a pregnant ice princess. What's up? But I kind of scooted sideways, and we wore a lot of things over the top.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was 7.5 months pregnant when I did Rosalka at the Met with Renee Fleming, and I did. This is actually quite funny. I was doing the Foreign Princess, and I remember they were having a heart attack because the old production had this huge, like, 2.5 story staircase that went up around a thing, and I was supposed to run out at the end of the act. And they're like,
Oh,
she can't be doing that. You have to give us a sign if something's wrong. And I said,
right.
if you see water running down the stairs, take me to St. Luke's. It'll be fine. People used to do this in potato fields. It's not a big deal.
Right,
So,
right. The old pro. So talking about you mentioned the diaphragm. You mentioned, I mean, the one I think my number one most annoyed phrase is when teachers talk, sing from the diaphragm. It's either that one or sing from the mask. These like one-off sort of like, you want me to wear a mask? Like, what are
for
you talking
what?
about?
How the hell am I
Yeah,
supposed to
I
do
just
that? It doesn't do anything.
I have such issue with this idea of this, involuntary muscle that reacts to how we breathe, or this resonance that happens because of not necessarily where we put anything, but how we choose to refine the vowels and how we choose to, resonate. So, talking about the appoggio and talking specifically about um, low breathing, are you of the school of down and out, or are you more of the in and up type of belief?
I'm a down and out girl. I'm a
Me
down and
too.
out girl. But the funny thing is, I mean, you and I just laughed about that, sing from the diaphragm, sing from the mask.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I get it. I really do get it. I went to a great school. I nosed my way into a great graduate program, but I also have a liberal arts degree. And I didn't go to a school that went heavy on pedagogy. I did not go to a school that gave me a lot of physiology classes.
Hmm.
I I mean I well, what the hell? It's almost over. What the hell do I care? I am still like low on my IPA. Like I got a couple, but other than
Hmm.
that, you'll see me writing like pictures of cats and things and like
Whatever
whatever
works.
works. That's it,
Whatever
whatever
works.
works. But that's the thing, when you talk to somebody, if they don't have the knowledge of the physiology and say, okay, sing from the mask. If they understand that that means that we don't have enough focus and it's falling too far back and that it means tilt it forward,
Yeah.
God bless, sing from the mask. Are you not supporting yourself? Are you trying to like do it from here and here? Fine,
Right.
sing from your diaphragm if that works for you. God bless.
Right.
Diaphragm
Right.
is lower than your neck. I'm here for it.
Right. No, within that context, I am 100% on board. I am 100% on board. But I think that from time to time, that gets spread to, I don't know, it catches like wildfire, then it becomes a saying, and then
Right.
like people start talking about it, and it's one of those things where it's like you do a vocal exercise and you have no idea why you're doing a vocal exercise just because your teacher told you to do an exercise.
Right.
I think that there's a great deal of substance in, hey, just out of curiosity, why are we doing this exercise? I think that it's a necessary thing to be able to explain. Oh, well, the purpose of this exercise is to build the strength in the core of the sound, as well as find the similarity and resonance between the three different vowels that we're currently working on. Oh, okay,
Don't you
cool.
find that's something that I will want to hear right at the beginning and say, right, here's what I'm hearing in your sound.
Yeah,
Here's what we're going to do to work on that.
yeah,
We're going to go from here, 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 try this, and this. And once you try it a couple of times and it works, say, right, let me tell you, first tell me what this feels like.
right.
Where are you feeling this? What feels different than the last time that you did this? Now let me explain to you why we're doing this.
Absolutely.
And to
Absolutely.
me, I feel like there's got to be a two or three pronged approach to the entire thing. And it also depends on the person that you're working with or the singer that you are. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to hear about, where my epiglottis should be. I want to hear what you hear
When I do
because
it like this.
exactly. Are
Yeah.
you hearing, does it feel like it's falling too far back? Does it feel like it's not quite under the pitch, but it's feeling squishy and it's not quite, you're not getting my overtones, which means I'm making too much space in the back and I don't have enough point on the front. Fine.
Right, right.
This is how my brain works. But somebody else's brain might work like that, or maybe they need to hear every physiological term. Maybe they need to hear every tiny little thing that moves as they do this, and that's how they process.
Yeah, yeah,
There are a million ways to do what we do.
yeah.
There's
That's
only
the thing.
one right response.
That's the thing. I mean, that's why I asked. It's like in all honesty, just are you a down and out or an in and up? It's not that one of them's right, one of them's wrong. It's just I'm interested in understanding. I personally have always been down and out, and that's what I
Mhm.
teach. But I know that there are other ways of doing that, and I
Right.
would love to hear somebody talk about that. But it makes sense to me simply because we are purposely then engaging in that resistance, that opposition, so that what the body wants to naturally do is sort of fall in on itself, and we're sustaining the opposition of that in order to make it through the phrase. Then we
Right.
breathe in again, and the whole process starts. But yeah, based on how people sense things and how people, their personalities, all of that comes into putting the puzzle together when it comes to, you know, vocal technique, figuring this whole thing
Absolutely. And
out.
I mean, and don't you find, look, the things that we knew, it's like I'm about to have like two teenagers in my house, which means there's so much bourbon happening, but also they know everything. And I
Hmm.
remember when I knew everything. And the older I get, the more I realize I don't know a damn thing about a thing. And
Isn't that
every day
amazing?
I learn something new. So what we know today is not what we're going to know tomorrow. And so if we have to stay open to everything because our bodies are constantly changing. Our voices are constantly changing. I I mean, I middle is what I do. I'm that soprano that like likes to hang out in the middle, goes up and sings a bunch of high notes and then gives the baby back to their mother and the cool aunt goes back into the middle of the staff. That's me. Except the
Yeah.
other day I magically had a sustained E flat. Now what the hell am I going to do with an E flat?
Oh,
Oh,
Violetta
maybe
in
I'll
the
be singing
making
in.
there.
I'm sure that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah,
Gilda,
right.
here I come. Said nobody
Gilda,
ever. What? That'd be one really big burlap bag. Okay,
please.
we got this. Let's go. Um, but it's like magically something happened, and now I don't know why I need that. I guess my C will feel really solid. Cool.
Well, I
But
gotta say, so a good friend of mine has been hanging out here with me while he's making some trips. He's in New Orleans. Brian Email, and who is a phenomenal tenor, right? Right, such a great guy.
the coolest.
Um, and so we're messing around. He's big into vocal technique, and we're bouncing ideas off of each other. And he's like, "I bet you have a B flat. Do it. Come on, let's go." And so I'm sitting here singing, and I had a sustained B flat, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what's happening?" And but you're right to that point. Then the A flat and the G for me, it's not so much. And those are
Different
notes that
animal.
I do sing. And
And now, because you know that you have that one,
right,
now you're not topping out at a G flat and you're not topping out at an A. So how do you change your placement?
exactly,
How do you
right,
change
right.
it when you're coming from an octave under versus when you're coming up a la Verdi in, half steps?
Exactly, exactly.
Different animal every single day. We need to
Yeah.
reevaluate. So, when you wake up and all of a sudden you feel like you don't know what you're doing, welcome to the cool table. I mean,
Well, and what a great time that I mean, I'm obviously looking at the flip side of the coin in this, but I mean, this time away from the stage has given us an opportunity to sort of explore those things, get into more coaching, teaching, whatever have you, but also for your own instrument, like you said, just like learning more and more and more about what your capabilities, what your limitations actually are not,
right.
which is
And
great.
also, let's have a moment for what the limitations. Let's talk about limitations. Whatever the hell that means, we should talk about it. I feel.
I do too.
But the idea of the whole Fach thing, and this is the box that you live in.
I got a quote. Okay, so I got to quote Stephanie Blythe with her conversation with Karen Slack. Fuck, fuck.
Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. That's it. I'm sorry. I've been in two or three of them my entire life.
Yeah.
I don't actually know anybody who just sits in one. I truly don't. And I'm aware of the fact that it would seem convenient to be like, this is what you are, go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to encourage everybody to try everything on.
Yeah.
because today one thing isn't going to work, and then in 2 years all of a sudden you will have five new ideas. And
Yeah.
if they don't feel right at that moment, try them again in a year. You don't have to be pigeonholed into one thing. So try
I know it
everything.
makes the manager's job a bit easier. I know it makes the producing organization's job a little bit easier to, oh, that's what they do. It's like, but yeah, it's not necessarily, and it certainly is not one size fits all for the rest of your
No,
life. Or it's like we're saying, what might work now, it's not going to work in 2 years. What works in 2 years is going to be the thing that opens you up for the next 15 years,
that's
or
right.
who knows.
That's right. It's a hell of a
Colette
journey.
Colette Mather says limitations might require lemon drop martinis. I like that idea.
Colette's my neighbor. Tell her she knows where I live.
There you go. There you go. So what kind of things are you looking forward to? I know we're kind of all in the same situation where we're hoping and wondering and seeing about. And what are you personally looking forward to?
God, I miss being on the stage. I miss the audience. It is, thank God for this medium. When this all started, I was like, what's Zoom? Oh, pretty girl. No idea. I mean, we were all just like, I don't know what's going on. And now I'm like, do you want to use Clean Feed, or do you want to use Zoom, or what? Do you have Sound Jack? What should we be? What platform do you want to use? And now I'm like
I
magically, I
love
know all the
I
things.
love I love that you when you talk about the different mediums of software, that you become a 90-year-old chain smoker. What are we doing today? Are we
I'm the
using the
lady from
clean feed?
That's right. I'm the lady from Beetlejuice that it just comes
Yes,
out. It's
yes.
fine. Like, fine.
Oh, that's so
No, but
good.
it's, well, I mean, and Ian, God bless you. You know where you are. You know who you are. And without you, none of us would be doing anything. So thank you, sir.
Preach.
I mean, God bless. But,
Yeah.
this is the thing. Without this, we wouldn't have had any kind of connection at all.
I know.
But the thing that I was able to do one thing really so far that had an audience during this entire time. And when the idea was brought to me, I thought, okay, I'm in because you're doing something.
Yeah.
And I said, do you want to come and sing excerpts from Goethe Damerung in a parking garage in Detroit? And I
Oh,
said,
right. I saw that.
yes, I do. And they said, well, do you want to know the rest of it? And I said, no, I don't.
Who cares?
I am so there because you are trying to do something. I'm so here for this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so then more details started to come out, and I thought, well, this sounds crazy as hell. I'm so glad I'm in. Let's do it.
There was something about a Mustang as the right, like a vehicle, the car.
That was my idea, because I was like, we have to get you out of there. And I was like, well, I can't ride out on a horse, Ford Mustang. Oh my God, get a Mustang. So Ford donated a Mustang for us to use. I didn't get to keep it. I was disappointed, but there you are. But that was the thing. People were listening. I had a mic, and they were in their cars. There were 10 at a time,
Yeah.
and they had the windows up because safety, and they were listening over the radio, but I was 2 feet from their window. And as
Wow.
I walked around and I got to see these people were crying. I'm going to start getting upset. People were crying. They were holding up their babies. They were holding up signs. They were
Wow.
cheering us on. And oh my God, I missed them.
Yeah. Right.
I miss doing this for people because, for those of you who are watching who are not singers, for people who just love singing, please know that you are half the equation, because the energy that we get from you is how we can give it back. And it's hard when we know you're on the other side of that screen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there is something visceral about being in each other's company. It's electric, and I desperately miss it.
I couldn't agree more, and how beautifully stated that was. I mean, I feel like the electricity alone between the stage and the audience is the thing that fuels the entire night. I mean, that's the whole thing. And there is such a difference, right, between those, I don't know, let's say a piano tech or first dress or whatever, when there's like four people out there, as
And then when
opposed
like
to
the
opening
kids
night.
show up,
The what?
like when the kids show up, and then it's like a rock concert, and they're
Oh,
screaming
that's
the
the
entire
best.
time. Like,
That's the
yes!
best. That's the one moment where the opera singer feels like this is what rock stars must feel like.
Yes. But you're right. I'm sorry. You were saying that, that when the audience finally shows up, it's a
No,
different animal.
it really is. It's an exchange of energy, as Jennifer Forney said in the comments. It's that symbiotic relationship that has to be there. And yeah, that's the thing that I look forward to the most is that intimacy between the audience and the stage.
Yeah.
And of course the colleagues on stage, right? I mean,
Yeah. Also, paying our mortgage is nice too. I'm just
oh
saying,
yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But no, I do. I miss. We have two. It's a very split life that we lead, and we're very lucky. We have two families. We have our family at home, but when we think about this, we start to run into the same people over and over again. And
Absolutely.
we have a singer family, we have an opera family, we have a production family.
Yeah.
We work with the same coaches, and they become part of our lives and part of our family. And
Yeah.
I miss everybody. I
I
miss
know.
everybody.
I know. Well, fingers crossed that it won't be too much longer where we will be all be able to come back and I think it's going to be better than ever. I mean, I can't imagine, because I think everyone has missed it so much that once we have the opportunity to come back, it's going to be innovative and inventive ideas on how to do so.
Hmm.
Um, certainly initially, I think it's not going to be like a light switch, but
No.
I think that there are so many people that are incredibly excited about what is on the horizon. So Randy Scarlotta says he appreciates us both in our candid conversation. That's great. Well, that was my goal from the get-go, is to try to sit down with some pretty amazing folks and have a candid conversation about, quite frankly, stuff that not too many people talk about. You might, after a sing through of the show, that first day of rehearsal, you might come up to somebody and be like, "Ah, you sound amazing."
Oh
But it's
yeah.
rare when you're like, "You sound amazing. Talk to me a little bit about what you think about Appoggio and how that," it's like that conversation kind of gets left in the wings. So I really appreciate you being here and opening up for us and talking about this. This was a lot of fun.
It's a total pleasure. And I I am really grateful for the opportunity to be able to do something like this. I think that it is not only cool to be able to talk about this stuff for other singers, but these are the kind of things that people who really love what we do, it's, I hope, very interesting to them to
Yeah.
see sort of what's going through our head.
Right.
We didn't even
Right.
touch on languages and all the other things that we have to do, and, laying on our stomachs while we're singing and things like that,
Right.
which,
Right. Right.
but this is, to me, it's really quite fascinating. Either you want to know all of what happens and all of the training that goes into a figure skater's beauty, or you just want to see it being beautiful. And I'm here
Yeah.
for both of those things, but I think
I
it's also
agree.
interesting to know about the training.
I agree. One thing you mentioned, what we think about on a given page of music. How often are you checking in with yourself for technique and for, you know, anything that might fall under, right? And how often is it just emotion and staying committed to the text and what you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, no, there's more to it than even that.
Okay.
I am sure that I can tell that the first thing that popped into my head is the end of the immolation scene. You've been
Hmm.
at it for 4 hours. I mean, your stamina at that point, you're just like, please, baby Jesus, get me through. I will go and light a candle. I'll buy somebody, I'll pay it forward. I'll buy a donut for the person behind me at Dunkin' Donuts tomorrow. Just get me through, you know? So you're tired, but at that point, you have 100% got to think. But
Yeah.
there's more to it than that. For those of us, especially that sing this big rep with huge orchestration, but for anybody, when you think that there is no reason for you to be taking these sight singing classes and these music theory courses and your orchestration courses and all of these things, like, when am I going to use parallel parking? Well, when you use it. You don't get to go in with a big orchestra or something that requires stamina without looking at the orchestration. Know
Yeah.
the instruments that you're working with. Know that if you are working with 7 Wagner tubas, you better be sure that you bring some extra focus, because you can't beat them. But if
Right.
there's not a lot going on, you can relax and sit back.
Hmm.
So that's another part of what I think about. Not just I have to technique, technique, technique. I have to technique because this is happening. What's
Hmm.
going on? Are they making a lot of noise today? Have they gotten
Hmm.
excited about the end of this piece? Which, God bless, at that point, have at. But it means that I have to walk my butt right to the front of the stage and be like, go.
Right, right.
Do you find yourself having to do things like that, or do you
Well,
put
I
any
certainly
attention to
started paying.
orchestration?
I certainly started paying a great deal more attention towards when I sing that, what is that? What is that underneath me? Exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying. Because if it's just strings, that's one thing. But if it's brass, and the first time that I ever really witnessed that was my first and only Amanagro. Um, that there's this one page when he gets really pissed, and Verdi decided to accompany that with all of the brass. And I was like, oh, I'm trying to, I mean, it felt like I was in competition with what they were doing. And so, yeah, that was one of the first times that I really, especially in that bigger repertoire, where I was like, I really got to start paying attention to what's making music together. And there's only certain things you can do. But yeah, you got to walk your ass down to the front of the stage and be like,
Walk your ass down to the
okay,
front of the stage.
here we go.
You'd be like, excuse me, God, Mike, you know you're supposed to be up on that platform. Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot.
I forgot. I'm sorry. Are there
Well,
eight? Are there eight tubas playing right now? I'm sorry. What?
whoops. I'll fix that tomorrow.
Well,
All the
that's
directors
great.
have just fired me.
I know, right? Like, oh,
Like,
that's what they're
Goerke's
doing.
out. Fine.
Yeah. Slash, would that ever come to a surprise to anyone that
Meh.
any singer who's been on stage? Why are they not staying on the stairs? Maybe
Why
they
are they out
forgot.
in row 4 of the audience? I don't understand.
Right, 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 right. Well, yeah. I mean, this could go on forever in a great way. But again, this was so great. This doesn't even feel like an hour has passed.
No,
This
me
has been
either.
so much
Thanks so
fun.
much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We should have these conversations more often. I think this is great, and I look forward to hearing you and to seeing you whenever we can, and keep working. And don't. I'm glad you never quit. I'm glad you never actually walked away. I'm glad that the clarinet didn't work out for you, as I'm
I'd
sure.
turn this around and show you, but I have my bass clarinet put together right in the corner there.
Oh
Um,
wow. So do
yeah,
you
well,
still practice from time to time?
time to time, from
Time
time
to
to
time.
time, time
Time
to
to time.
time. Actually, I really miss it. Colette, who is very busy bringing me a lemon drop martini or whatever it is that she's bringing,
Yeah.
Colette is a spectacular horn player, and she has put up. She's also a brilliant, brilliant educator, and she plays everything. And so she has put up with my horrible duetting and trioing. So I thank you, Colette, and I am still looking for you. You're not here yet with the
She
alcohol,
says,
so
"Yeah, space clarinet." Well, I,
yes.
I think Colette now knows her job is to bring you a lemon martini. And well, I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful
Thank you.
weekend. And
You do the
again,
same, dear. Thank you.
thank you so much. Have a great, great, great rest of your day.
Pleasure. Thanks so much.
Bye.